Hi, I'm Ray from Green Acres. Today we're going to be talking about pruning apple trees. It is the season. There's three main rules about pruning an apple tree. And the first one is don't take any more than 30% off the apple tree in any given year.
Here are the branches that we took off this apple tree. It's about 30%, and that's all I dare to take off. Oh, the top probably needs a little more trimming.
The reason why we prune a tree to begin with is that it's all about the energy in the tree. If you have a whole bunch of branches, and that's how the energy from that tree is going to go to support those branches, it's not going to have much left for fruit. But if you trim back the branches, the energy then can go to making better fruit. So that's just the gist of how it all works. And folks, don't forget to keep all your apple trimmings. If you can get any firewood out of it at all, apple makes beautiful firewood. Burns very, very hot, very long. It's a very dense wood. As you can tell here, I cut these branches. These branches were really bushy. Something had to go, so I cut these because they were actually, some of them were actually getting dead on the end, so they weren't producing anything anyway. So as you can see, the sun's going to shine through this tree. If the apples by September, when the sugar should be up the tree, is sour and it's scabby, may not be worth your while to trim the tree. Although I trim them anyway because we have a lot of deer here and they feed off the apples, and it's just the experience of pruning the tree. Again, as you can tell, it's a little thick on the top. I could take a few more out of there. The arborist came in about 3 years ago and had a crew of about 10 people showing us how to prune apple trees. He's an amazing guy, 75 years old, and just climbed to the top of anything. He'll have probably 50 trees down through our yard, down by the water there. And we'll take a look at the things that he did and what the group did on those apple trees. Now, I will say that because of time restraints and stuff, we end up pruning the apple trees a little later than we should. They were kind of budding, and the first year they never really produced much at all because we took that energy out of that tree because the tree wasn't dormant. So that's another rule. When to do the tree, you do it when it's dormant, and you're not trimming off the energy when you cut a branch. There's some energy, again, that goes back to the 30% rule, that you never take more than 30%, but because there's some energy left in that tree. But when it's producing and starting to bud, all the energy's in the tree. So you cut them branches off, you're taking a lot of energy out of the tree. So we'll go down and take a peek. We'll go down and take a peek at those other trees that we trimmed up. Here we are at the end of March, going into April, and we're still getting a lot of snow, and it'll probably continue well into April because the whole winter just seemed to shift a month later. Anyway, I digress. I like using that word digress. It kind of makes you sound smart, but really, what it really means is you can't stay on topic. But anyway, let's go back and look at some apple trees. You would have basically deteriorated further and further unless you intervene. But
Yeah, well, you know, it's important to manage your cutting so that you're not causing further damage to the tree. These cuts are generally pretty good, and reducing the size.
Yeah, the crew was very willing to climb, and they're young, so they're willing to climb, and we didn't have an extra long pole, but they didn't mind climbing. They were young and strong. Here's Dennis cutting some major limbs off some trees. They were a real mess. They probably were never trimmed. But see how that tree is trimming up now? It's starting to open up a lot. Dennis had shears, and he had a little pole saw.
an open center and or a multiple leader. It's got these two leaders here that are dominant, and an apple tree would not produce an edible apple generally, just because that's not their purpose. They want to produce a seed, and a seed is viable in any kind of an apple.
So this is what a finished tree is supposed to look like, nice and open. He didn't want to take any more off that because there's the rule of no more than 30% per year. And also, the tree has to be dormant. That's the second big rule. The third rule is have a good sharp pole saw and good shears so you make a nice clean cut. So have fun with this. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe.